I'm only allowed in England for 36 hours as it is, but on your salary I don't suppose you'd have quite the same tax problems. Oh, dear me. I'm terribly sorry. The MG ZS, it's got the name of a car based on a Rover 45. It's an SUV. Is it any good? Should you care? Why? Let's find out, shall we? MG, let's go.
Here we are with anchors tying us to what we'll call home, even if the sight of it has not yet touched our eyes. But here we are and we're together, even if we are apart and we're together.
So, welcome once again to Limpsfield in Surrey and another episode of Tweed Jacket Reviews. Today I'm in a 2019 MG ZS 1 litre turbo exclusive automatic, which has been lent to me for the week by the MG Motor UK press office. So thanks, MG. Before we get into detail about this wonderful SUV from MG, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Please don't forget to like this video and to leave a comment below it. It really helps out so that we can make more episodes of Tweed Jacket Reviews and give you more content for your own personal amusement. So the MG ZS was originally, in the early 2000s, a very sporty version of the Rover 45. I know a lot about Rover 45s because I used to have a Rover 45 back in the day. It was a 2004 1.4 Club SE manual, and that was an interesting car. The 45 and the ZS, although were reasonable cars in their day, and the ZS had nice handling, and if you got the 180, which was a 2.5 litre V6, they're very fast. They weren't the last word in quality or durability, I would say. Nowadays they're pretty cheap and you can pick one up for less than £1,000 really. This particular car though is the SUV. It was originally going to be called the XS prior to the 2017 launch, but then it was renamed the ZS, and it has nothing whatsoever in common with the previous model. Not even the oil filler cap, nothing at all. There are two engines available in the ZS. They're both petrol. There is a 1.5 litre with 105 horsepower and normal aspiration, and there is this particular car, which is a 1 litre turbo 3-cylinder engine, only available as a dual clutch automatic transmission, and it has 111 horsepower. This is the one I prefer. If you've watched either of my MG3 videos, and I've done a pre and post facelift MG3 on Tweed Jacket Reviews, then you'll know all about the 1.5 normally aspirated engine, which it's 105 horsepower and does 0 to 60 in about 10.5 seconds in an MG3 and about 10.9 in an MG ZS. It's a very old tech engine. It's a 4-cylinder unit, but the isn't any turbo. The variable valve time doesn't seem to work particularly well, and really, if you could afford the extra money to go up to this 1 litre 3-cylinder turbo, I would really do it. I don't think 1.5 is a bad choice if you really want a manual, if you want to save money, if you're not bothered about the kind of extra sort of smoothness and the torque that this 1 litre produces, then that's fine, but I just happen to prefer this one. And having driven this around now for a few days, it's like night and day really, the difference between the two. Bear in mind though that to go up from the 1.5 manual to the 1 litre automatic, there is actually a premium of about £2,000. So just bear that in mind when you're choosing your ZS. Rather like the facelifted MG3, the MG ZS has a very simple trim level structure. Right at the base of the range there is Explore, the mid-range is Excite, that's the one most people buy, and then there is this exclusive variant. Now most of the reviews that you'll see on the internet drive around in exclusives, and there's a good reason for that. This has a really good level of standard equipment. The Explorer, you don't actually even get air conditioning in that car. You do get cruise control and automatic headlamps, but you don't get air conditioning, and I think that really is a bit of an oversight for a car in 2019. The Excite trim level introduces things like obviously air conditioning, and it also has this lovely centre dash infotainment system that has Apple CarPlay and DAB radio. You don't get sat nav though, unless you are on the top trim level. This is the iGo system in the exclusive model. To be honest, the Excite is what most people need. It's got rear parking sensors as well, which I'd recommend because rear visibility is not that great as in a lot of these SUV type of cars. Also with the Excite has this lovely sort of houndstooth fabric that reminds me of what used to be on the original Mini Metros. I don't really know why, but it has this sort of houndstooth fabric, and yeah, some people quite like that. With the Excite, I have contacted a MG dealer, which is Summit Garage in Dudley. Thank you to John New and the team there, by the way, for helping with my inquiry. The Excite is priced at just over £14,000 for the manual version, and well, obviously you get the standard 7-year warranties you do on all MGs these days. And on that particular car, with the equipment that I've just sort of specified, you can get that on a 4-year hire purchase finance detail at 0% APR for £234 a month when you put down £2,809 deposit. Now that actually is pretty good. One reason for that is that unlike on a PCP deal, which is what most finances these days, you own the car outright at the end of the hire purchase agreement. So, and it's 0% finance. I mean, that's actually very, very competitive indeed. One of the things that I do like about the MG ZS is that it's got a very compliant ride. In comparison with a lot of cars, and even MG's own MG3 to be honest, if you're driving around town, the car is a little bit disturbed by potholes. You can't go too fast over speed bumps, but nevertheless it is so much more comfortable than the average SUV that I've driven. Certainly much better than say a Renault Capture, maybe on a par with a SsangYong Tivoli, which is a very similar car to this by the way, but the two are very easily compared. And that is what I really like. You can also, of course, in an MG ZS, like on a Tivoli, use the tri-mode steering, and you can firm the steering up to your delectation. I have the car permanently in dynamic mode because it gives a lot more steering feel, and if you put it in urban, then you can just twirl the car around with a little finger, which I think is pretty silly. Obviously it's electric setup, unlike the MG3, which has a hydraulic setup, and you know most cars these days do have an electric power steering setup to save weight and to do better in fuel economy tests. But yes, having a little bit more weight, it does help. Now this is not a sports car, and don't think that you can drive this even quite like an MG3 on back road. It doesn't respond in that way. It is a bit taller, the suspension is a little bit softer, which means that it does ride pretty well, but you know, you do notice a bit of lean in the corners. It's not really too bad, but it's certainly nowhere like something like an Audi Q3. In terms of comfort, the seats are very, very comfortable in this car. The driving position is very good. We'll talk a bit more about that later. And also, there's just a sort of feeling when you're driving around in this car that you are somebody who is a person of exquisite taste. In terms of performance with this engine, this is a General Motors source engine by the way. It's used in the current Astra, although not for much longer, and was used in the current Corsa until last year. It's very smooth. It does 0 to 60 with this particular gearbox in about 12.5 seconds. Now I'm sure with a 6-speed manual in here, that would do even better, and you'd get even better fuel economy. I've been getting with my driving today, I've done about 100 miles or so, I got about 43 miles per gallon. This being a press car, lots of people have been driving it. It's on 3,000 miles from new, and the average fuel economy is about 40. Now, if you drive a lot in the city, you'll see that figure come down quite considerably. But for an automatic car of this particular weight, bearing in mind this isn't the lightest car in the world, I don't think that's too bad. I have driven the new electric version of the ZS, it's simply known as the ZS EV, and that is a bit more expensive than this particular car. And there are certain features on the EV that you can't get at all on the petrol variant. You can't get a panoramic sunroof, this car doesn't have one. You can't get blind spot monitoring, this car doesn't have it. You can't get autonomous emergency braking, this car doesn't have it, and quite a few other features as well. One thing you cannot get on any MG ZS at all is front parking sensors. You can't get them at all. Obviously on standing on Tivoli, the Ultimate in particular, you can get front parking sensors. You can also get lane keeping assist on the electric version, which I did use when I was driving it in central London. And adaptive cruise control as well. These are all features which, you know, I think customers expect in a more modern car, but clearly with the list price of this particular car, with this amazing red dynamic tri-coat paint of around £18,000, maybe you're giving your money and taking your choice, really.
Here we are with anchors tying us to what we'll call home, even if the side.
This car is a real surprise. For £12,500, you can have the base model of this car, and it drives almost the same as this. I think that's pretty incredible. And also, this one only costs £17,500. There's cars that are maybe £10,000 more expensive, but don't drive as nicely as this. But anyway, let's look at the more practical side of this car, have a look in the boot. My goodness me, that key chime is annoying. Anyway, one of the nice things about this newer ZS is the fact that the tailgate badge is actually the boot release. You know, Volkswagen and Seat have been doing this for years, but it's nice to see MG giving this a try as well. If you open the boot up, you can see it's actually very large. It's 448 litres. Just for a comparison's sake, 448 litres is probably the biggest boot in the class. Now, the only way you can get bigger is if you have, say, a Volkswagen T-Cross or a Renault Capture, and you slide the seats all the way forward and you lose all the legroom. With an MG ZS, the seats are so capacious that you don't need to slide them back anyway, and so you get the best of both worlds. One of the key features of this car is that it does have an adjustable height boot floor. It's in the down position at the moment, and if we look under the floor, we'll see we have various accessories. We don't get a spare one as standard, although that is an optional extra. Oh, another optional extra is the Furious Driving mug. This car doesn't have a T-shelf, so we can't put it on the dashboard, but nevertheless, it is an essential thing to buy, and it's available from the Furious Driving website. So you notice I've moved the boot floor into its raised position, and that's a really easy loading surface. Also, if you fold the rear seats down, they'll now fold down really nice and flat. There's space for oddments at the side. One thing you don't have in this car is a 12-volt socket in the boot. I don't really know why. I think the electric car does have one of those. It's obviously just to keep the price down a bit. Let's now take a seat in the back. Before I get in, I will just show you how the seat folds. It's really easy. You just pull the toggle like that and it goes down. Because we've got the boot floor in the raised position, it's a nice flat loading area. The only thing I would say is this seat belt has nowhere to sort of clip in when you fold the seats, and so there's a real risk when you fold the seats that they then get stuck. Right, now we've dealt with that and climb in, which is incredibly easy. This has to be the easiest car that I've ever been in terms of climbing at the back. But the ride height is such that it's not too high to step up and it's not too low to go down. It's so simple getting in and out, which I think is a real bonus. And I can see why so many people buy these for their families. The materials in here aren't too bad. There are hard plastics on the top, but that's quite common in this sort of car. We've got the Artico leather here on the doors. The switches feel quite nice. The leather, as I said, is not actually real in this car. It is artico or faux, but it's nice and comfortable. The seats are really good in here. The knee room is very generous. The headroom is very generous. The only thing that I'm a bit annoyed about is the lack of an armrest, which you can't get on any model. And unlike the electric version, there is no rear USB port. One of the things about a ZS is that it is quite a wide car for the class, and so you probably could fit 3 people in the back if they have short journeys. You can also put in a couple of child seats because you've got ISOFIX points as well. Once again, it's so easy to get in and out of this car. If you've got anybody in your family who's got mobility difficulties or they're slightly elderly, then this is a really good option to suggest to them. Anyway, we've got this modern MG steering wheel, which looks a little bit like an Audi wheel with a flat bottom, but that's okay. It's very nice to hold, and on this particular model, it's got leather stitching. We've actually got a soft touch dashboard in this car, which is brilliant. It's something you may not expect for a car like this, but it has one. The materials feel pretty good. I mean, if you go too far down, it just gets a bit nasty, but you know, what do you expect really for a car that starts at £12,500? We've got the automatic version here. The shift is really easy to use. The electric version has a rotary dial, which is a bit unusual. This one also has a conventional handbrake, which is really to my taste. I much prefer a conventional handbrake in a car. We've got some cup holders down here, which is good. We've also got a 12-volt socket and a USB here, although a bit miserly. On the electric version, you get 2 USB sockets in a floating center console. I'm really missing those today. For those of you who are fans of the Furious Driving YouTube channel, there's actually a T-shelf just between these 2 seats here. It's even got a rubberized mat in there, so your cup of tea is very secure in this car, even with extreme maneuvers trying to evade pursuers. Also, we've got some secret mission documents here, and we'll see if they fit in the glove box, and they do with absolutely no problem at all. Also can fit the secret mission documents very nicely in the door bin. Overall, this is a very practical interior. The heating and ventilation controls are exactly the same as on the facelifted MG3, and they're incredibly simple to operate. There are no versions of the MG ZS, including the electric version, that have climate control, but you do have standard air conditioning, and it's very simple to operate. It's a world away from the first MG3. If we turn on the central touchscreen, now this is standard on everything but the base Explore version. Then because we've got an exclusive, we have satellite navigation, we've got DAB radio, Bluetooth connectivity. We've got a system which allows us to operate different types of driving modes. It's a very well equipped car. The only problem is that it only has Apple CarPlay and no Android Auto unless you buy the electric version. I think I know what MG's marketing policy is. They really want you to be environmentally friendly. So if I just turn the edition on slightly here, you'll notice the dials do a nice sweep. That's very much like an MG3 as well. There is this, oh shush. There is a nice little screen here, it's black and white, a bit like on my Seat Toledo, which shows you the fuel range, and it tells me that actually I have been getting on this journey today 43 miles per gallon, which actually isn't too bad. The long-term economy of this car is around 40 miles per gallon. This is a press car, so lots of different people drive it, and yes, it's showing about 40 miles per gallon in 3,000 miles, which I don't think is too bad. The instruments are very clear to read. The only thing that you don't get in this car, and it's the same as an MG3, you don't get a temperature gauge, but you do get 2 warning lights, one hot and one cold, and that these days I think is probably sufficient. In terms of visibility, the rear window is a little bit on the small side, so once again, like I've said it so many times during this review, don't go for the base Explore version, go for the Excite, which has parking sensors. or the Exclusive, which is this one, which has parking sensors and a reversing camera. The front visibility is actually quite good. It is worth bearing in mind though that unlike on a SsangYong Tivoli, you cannot get any MG ZS, including the electric version, with front parking sensors at all. On this Exclusive trim model, we've got these Artico leather seats. They're very comfortable. There's plenty of adjustment fore and aft and up and down. The steering wheel though only adjusts up and down. It does not go in and out at all. I think that's also a trait shared with the electric version. It's okay though, because being a fairly standard size in terms of my height, I'm 5'11". I find my driving position very comfortable indeed, and I've driven about 80 miles today to get to our filming location. I've had no problem at all. It's probably one of the smoothest and nicest rides I've ever had in a long time. One interesting quirk of an MG ZS is, despite the fact that most of these control switches are conventional, the door locking buttons are in the place where you'd expect to find them, the window switches are nice and there in the place you expect to find them, as is the door mirror control. But the fuel filler cap release and the bonnet release are two identically sized levers right next to each other on the right hand side of the steering wheel, and you can't see them from a driving seat very well, so you've got to be really careful that you don't go to fill up and then pull the bonnet release. Oh dear. So then, what do I think of this MG ZS, specifically this SUV shape? Well, it is actually a really good car. Perhaps the engine and gearbox combination is not to my taste, and perhaps there's one or two features I'd like to see on this car, and there are very slight issues in terms of the kind of build quality, but that's really a minor thing. I can see why this car has been so popular and why MG sales are up 103% over the course of the last year. Oh, excuse me, I'm terribly sorry. Thank you for your concern, but I never fly. Thank you for watching this episode of Tweed Jacket Reviews. My name is Joseph Lloyd. I'm an independent vehicle consultant. I find cars for people. Please subscribe to the channel if you'd like to do that. Don't forget to like this video and to leave a comment below. If you wish me to source a car for you, I'd love to do that. My website is www.lloydvehicleconsulting.co.uk. Please use the contact me page on my website to get in touch. I've got a Facebook page as well. It's facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Thank you.